what an American thinks about Indonesia. Indonesia. Indonesia is a very, very interesting place. It's a great place to travel. It's one of the most amazing places I've been to. Although it's a good place to travel as like your first country to go to if you haven't traveled for a while, because they're really intense. Um, Out of all the countries I've been to, the most intense people are either going to be the Indonesians, the Brazilians, and the Moroccans, as far as just like bubbling over with energy and laughing and, like in Morocco, it's more about just getting in your face and being annoying. And in Brazil, they get like pissed off really easily. And, they can be dangerous. But in Indonesia, they're just bubbly and, laughy, haha, and all that stuff. Pretty lots of energy. And the city and the towns where it's clean. Like they take care of their environment. They don't. One thing I forgot to say about Malaysia though is there's like lots of clear cutting, and in Indonesia they don't clear. There's not clear cutting, and they're really poor in Indonesia. But they paint their fences and all that stuff, and it's cool. There's lots of different ethnic groups there, but and I think their English is okay. I think their English is better in Indonesia than in fucking flashback. Than in like Nepal or Thailand. Damn, it's been so long though. But well, actually, one place in Indonesia I didn't really like the locals. I was in the surf places. They were just like too aggressive and lie to you. They do lie. They're big time liars though. Indonesians are big time liars, more than any other place I've seen. Like one guy at a mosque, he told me he was tour guide for Bill Clinton, and then he told me I wasn't allowed to take a photo of the mosque, and then he said I had to pay like the guard. It was like you have to pay him to get in, and found out it wasn't like that, and like just lots of other stuff. Like this kid said he was like cousins with some other kid at the surf place, and it turned out they weren't, and they'll just lie just because they like to lie, kind of like Chileans, and also but they do want to hang out with you if you pay, but they expect you to pay, but it doesn't really matter because it's so cheap. But what else was I gonna say? The spatial there is really, really, really crazy. Like there's no personal space there. Like I guess in Europe there's less personal space than America, but in Indonesia there's like none. I remember I was up on the big lookout tower in Jakarta, and I was waiting in line to get, and there was like not many people, like 6 people in the whole room, to get in the elevator to come down, and I'm waiting in there, and this kid, this like teenage kid, walks behind me, standing in line. I swear to God, presses his entire body up against me, completely pressed up against me, and I look behind him, and there's like nobody in the room. There's plenty of room to be waiting, and I look right at him, and I look at his friend who's like, I guess standing right next to him, to be like, what are you doing? And they both had this like blank look on their face, and then all the other people in there had a blank look on their face, and I realized that it was just like a regular thing to do. Like they just pack up like sardines even if you don't have to. They're just used to it. And like getting in the big boat, that's how it was. Like people just swarm around in this big like mob of people, and they just pack into the boat just kind of haphazardly, and they didn't even bother to open up the door all the way before they get in, and then they couldn't even continue to open up the door, and they'd just be like climbing over this one door drop down. But I think, and then like, yeah, it's like really chaotic too, like really chaotic, man. Like I tried to get a ticket for a boat on a bed, and they said that they were sold out. So I go on the boat, so I had to buy like the ticket where you don't have a seat, so you have to sleep like on the deck or in the hallways, or like on the stairwell where like all these people were. Like if you walk up the stairs, you have to step up and around over people because there's people sleeping in the stairwell and the hallway and stuff, and on the deck of the boat. And but then I looked in the room where they said it was sold out. While I swear to God, while we're floating down the sea, and there's nobody in there. Like hundreds of beds completely empty. Because I guess the people who bought the tickets didn't want to pay the extra for that berth, so they paid the cheap version, which was only like $3 for like a day ride. It was crazy. And but why did they tell me that those other ones were sold out? It was really weird. But yeah, they're really friendly. Like I was up in the bar, and there was this kid there just babbling, like laughing, and everybody would laugh, and he was like acting totally goofy and jumping around, and way more. It's kind of like Jim Carrey. Like everybody down there is Jim Carrey, and if you're acting like that, then you're like cool. It was pretty cool. They invited me over to their place, but when we landed, but I didn't go. Yeah, and there's this really a distinct smell that they have there too, because they all smoke glove cigarettes instead of tobacco cigarettes, and it gets in your clothes and it gets in the like the buildings and walls and stuff, and has a distinct smell, and it smells good. So it's kind of like the smell of Indonesia, like has a real earthy smell, the clove, and kind of makes you feel like you're in a kind of like in India, sort of like just texture. But it's funny, man. They're really funny though. They're just really funny people. Like they're not just like aggressive and like annoying like Brazilians and Moroccans, but they're funny. Like they had this movie. I was watching one of these Indonesian movies they have. Maybe they have like I think they're really similar to India, you know. They have like this movie of these like Indonesians who like get stranded on like an island, and there's all these like natives there, and they're like afraid of the natives because the natives are like savage. And they're like, like ooh, overacting and stuff. It's funny. So they do, even though they're a third world country, they do have the whole, civilization versus crazy savage native thing. And because there are lots of crazy savage natives still there, like who think that if you're white, you're a ghost. I heard in the island south of Nias, and who did headhunting until like 100 years ago. And they still had village there of Nias. They had this village on this paved road, cobblestone road, with this big building right there, and it's pretty cool. Like it was like the chief's hut. They have these like A-framed huts over there. But yeah, Indonesia was cool.